Because it was a racial political thing from back in the probably early 1900s. And that's why it got on the Schedule 1 list, because people thought that the people using it were unsavory characters.
Anything that I've ever heard about why cannabis became illegal the last time and why it's currently illegal is was to stop Vietnam protests, because they needed to stop peaceful protesting in a legal way.
I believe the health industry has determined that marijuana was not suitable for any medical uses up until recently, and now you know that medical marijuana has come back into effect, where they found it can ease symptoms of certain ailments such as glaucoma.
I mean, part of it is racism, believe it or not, interestingly enough. But part of it, I think, is, people want to control mind-altering substances in general.
Because there's a lot of people against it. They consider it a drug, and children get addicted, and then they go to more potent drugs after that.
Because like all drugs, it affects the mind, and a lot of times when people are taking drugs, whether it's alcohol or marijuana or things, they make poor decisions.
I think the government wants control over the drugs, and they worry. I mean, I think there are people that worry that it's bad for people, going to cause problems.
Back in the 30s or 40s, the government decided that marijuana had no medicinal purpose, so that's why it started out being illegal.
I think it's illegal because the powers that be want to keep it illegal.
Because it impairs people, I suppose, and that scared people, so they made it illegal.
I think it is illegal because as a society we're afraid of things that alter our mind, and there's that theory that it could be a gateway drug to inspire people to try more mind-altering substances that might be more dangerous, and I think people are worried about the impact on society.
Well, the cynical part of me says that it's not there's not an industry behind it.
I think probably the simplest, it's a complicated answer, but I think a simple way is I would say that the lobby for pro-cannabis in Washington, D.C. is pretty weak, and they've come to the game pretty late, and that has made it tough for them.
The history of racial tension regarding cannabis started after the 1910 revolution in Mexico. Migrant workers came across the border to pursue opportunities in America and were met with distrust and outright hatred. Since cannabis had long been a part of Mexican culture, it was used as an identifier to separate us from them for the middle and upper class whites. This led to California outlawing preparations of hemp, or loco weed, in 1913. This was shortly followed by other states prohibiting cannabis. These laws tended to be specifically worded and targeted against the Mexican-American population. The fact that these laws first took hold in the agricultural heart of America lends itself to support the idea that this was strictly based on racism and work competition. The racism hit the East Coast shortly after. A 1934 newspaper headline read, "Marijuana influences Negroes to look at white people in the eye, step on white men's shadows, and look at a white woman twice." Yellow journalism and propaganda such as Reefer Madness portrayed blacks and Mexicans as frenzied beasts that would bring around the downfall of white civilization through cannabis use. All of this led to the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which stipulated that cannabis could only be grown with the possession of a special tax stamp, but guidelines made it impossible to acquire such a stamp. Thus, through backdoor channels, cannabis had become illegal in the United States.